What if I told you the happiest family in Bedrock was hiding some of the strangest secrets in television history? Bright smiles, cheerful music, and Stone Age jokes made the Flintstones look simple, harmless, and timeless.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern...
But behind those colorful rocks and friendly dinosaurs lived contracts broken in silence, voices borrowed without permission, networks quietly panicking, and creative choices that nearly erased the show before it ever became a legend. This wasn't just a cartoon about cavemen. It was an experiment, a gamble, a risk no one knew would work. Today, we're uncovering 9 weird facts you didn't know about the Flintstones, 1960. The accidents, the secrets, and the decisions nobody talks about. And one of these nearly ended primetime animation forever. Stay close, because the bedrock you remember was never as simple as it looked. Fact 1. The Flintstones was never meant for kids. Most people assume the Flintstones was always a children's show. Bright colors, funny animals, simple jokes. But that's not how it started. When the series premiered in 1960, it aired in prime time, not Saturday mornings. It was placed alongside live-action sitcoms meant for adults. The target audience was not children. It was office workers coming home from long days, parents relaxing after dinner, couples looking for light comedy before bed. The show's creators openly modeled it after The Honeymooners, one of the most popular adult sitcoms of the era. Marriage arguments, neighbor rivalries, workplace jokes, all written with grown-ups in mind. And here's the part that still surprises people. In the early seasons, the show's main sponsor was a cigarette company. Yes, Fred and Barney appeared in commercials praising cigarettes between episodes.
That's it! Winston is the one!
Not as a joke, not as a parody, as real endorsements. Animation wasn't considered children's entertainment yet. It was simply another way to deliver sitcom humor. The Flintstones didn't just become a hit. It quietly invented adult animation on television, long before anyone realized what that would lead to decades later. Fact 2. Fred Flintstone was copied from a real TV star. Fred Flintstone felt familiar for a reason. His voice, his temper, his complaints, even his catchphrases came straight from Jackie Gleason. The creators openly modeled him on Gleason's character from The Honeymooners, turning a beloved TV sitcom star into a caveman. The resemblance was uncanny. Same tone, same gestures, same marriage dynamics, and viewers immediately noticed. But here's the problem. They never asked for permission. No license, no contract, no legal agreement. When Gleason finally saw the show, the studio panicked. Executives feared a lawsuit that could shut down the series before the first season even finished airing. Meetings were silent. Lawyers were on edge. The future of the Flintstones hung in the balance on a single man's reaction. Then something unexpected happened. Gleason laughed. Instead of suing, he sent a friendly note congratulating the creators on their work. One quiet approval saved the production. If he had chosen differently, the Flintstones might have vanished after just a few episodes, remembered only as a lawsuit gone wrong. Fact 3. Wilma rarely existed. In the earliest drafts of the Flintstones, Wilma wasn't even part of the show. The original concept focused almost entirely on Fred and Barney at work. Office jokes, boss conflicts, and neighbor rivalries dominated the scripts. There were no strong female characters, no home-centered stories, and no emotional balance to offset the comedic chaos. Test audiences reacted poorly. They said the show felt cold, mechanical, and unrelatable. Something crucial was missing, a heartbeat the series desperately needed. Faced with this, the writers made a last-minute decision. They created Wilma Flintstone. She wasn't just a decoration. She was the emotional anchor of the series, the element that grounded the humor and gave the story's depth. With her arrival, the show transformed. Episodes now include domestic scenes, marriage humor, and family-centered plots. Wilma gave Fred someone to argue with, someone to impress, and someone to frustrate, injecting personality and heart into the series. Here's the twist. Once Wilma appeared, the entire structure of the show shifted. Executives later admitted that without her, the Flintstones would have been canceled within weeks. The most important character in Bedrock rarely walked on screen, yet she became the cornerstone of the entire series. Fact 4. Barney Rubble was supposed to disappear. Barney Rubble is now one of the most beloved sidekicks in animation history. Loyal, kind, funny, the perfect foil to Fred Flintstone. But in the early days of the show, network executives weren't so sure. They thought Barney was unnecessary, too gentle, too silly, and far too similar to Fred. Test screenings labeled him redundant, and quietly, plans were made to reduce his role, gradually phasing him out of the series. The writers were told to focus more on Fred, and Barney's appearances were minimized. It seemed inevitable. Then something unexpected happened. The audience fell in love with him. Kids laughed at his clumsy antics. Families quoted his lines. Fan letters poured in, often mentioning Barney more than Fred. What the executives had tried to erase became the character audiences adored most. The writers had to rethink the show entirely. Barney's personality was softened, made warmer, kinder, and more loyal. He became not just a sidekick, but the emotional center of the series, balancing Fred's loud, brash energy with gentle humor and heart. The character they almost removed from Bedrock ended up being one of the most iconic and enduring figures in animation history, proving that sometimes the audience knows best. Fact 5. The laugh track hit a major production problem.
It wouldn't be easy.
Those cheerful laughs you hear throughout the Flintstones weren't recorded for the show. There was no live audience, no studio crowd, no synchronized reactions timed to the jokes. Instead, the laughs were borrowed from old live-action sitcom recordings and carefully layered over the animation during post-production. It sounds simple, but the decision was born from necessity. Early test screenings of the episodes revealed a major problem. It wasn't that the jokes themselves were weak. Far from it. The timing was off. Animation moves differently from live action, and punchlines are passed too quickly, leaving scenes feeling rushed or awkward. Moments meant to land as comedic beats often fell flat. Without the added laughter, the episodes felt hollow, mechanical, and unengaging. The solution was daring. Producers decided to layer laugh tracks over nearly every pause, even during scenes without jokes. It wasn't about adding humor. It was about creating rhythm, pacing, and a sense of audience reaction that the animation itself couldn't provide. In fact, network executives later admitted that without this trick, the show might have failed its earliest screenings and never made it to air. The laugh track didn't just enhance comedy, it saved the entire series. Fact 6. The animation was simplified on purpose. If you watch the earliest episodes of The Flintstones and compare them to the later seasons, the difference is striking. Season 1 is rich with smooth motion, detailed backgrounds, and expressive character animation. By the later seasons, the movement became stiffer, backgrounds simpler, and expressions less fluid. At first glance, it might look like laziness, but it wasn't. It was survival. The Flintstones was the first animated series to air weekly in prime time, a schedule no one had ever attempted before. The production demands were relentless. Budgets shrank, deadlines tightened, and animators were stretched to the breaking point. To meet the pace, the studio developed shortcuts that would later define television animation. Walking cycles were looped, backgrounds were reused, and characters often stood still with only mouths moving to deliver lines. These techniques allowed the team to produce full episodes on time without sacrificing the overall narrative or humor. In a way, the show became a blueprint for the industry. The Flintstones didn't just succeed, it taught studios how to manage the impossible, proving that innovation in animation often comes not from perfection, but from clever adaptation under pressure. Fact 7. Pebbles was created to save the ratings. Pebbles Flintstone, the cheerful, red-headed baby of Bedrock, was not part of the show's original plan. She wasn't born from creative inspiration or a story vision. She was created out of necessity, a direct response to fear. By the third season of The Flintstones, the show's ratings were slipping. Episodes were starting to feel repetitive. The novelty of a modernized Stone Age world was wearing off for viewers. Executives demanded something fresh, something that could breathe new life into the series, add emotional stakes, and create opportunities for merchandise that would sell. In response, the writers introduced Pebbles. Her arrival changed everything. Family plots expanded, parenting humor became central to the scripts, and Fred and Wilma's marriage gained depth. Barney and Betty were drawn into new, baby-centric storylines. With just one character, the show found new energy, new possibilities, and a new rhythm that engaged audiences immediately. Ratings climbed, viewers tuned in to watch Pebbles' antics, mischief, and charm. Toy sales soared, and the baby became a merchandising goldmine, one of the most profitable characters in the entire franchise. She wasn't born from pure creativity. Pebbles was a calculated addition designed to save a faltering show, yet ironically, she became one of animation's most beloved icons, proving that sometimes the best decisions come from survival under pressure. Fact 8. Dino was based on a real dog. Here's one of the strangest secrets hiding in plain sight. Dino, the lovable pet of the Flintstone family, wasn't originally meant to be a dinosaur at all. From the very beginning, the writers pictured him as a dog, not just in spirit, but in behavior, movement, and personality. They modeled him after a real dog that roamed the animation studio during production, a clumsy, loyal companion who followed animators from desk to desk. His wagging tail, excited jumps, and the way he tackled Fred with affection were lifted straight from that real-life animal. The scales, long neck, and dinosaur features were added later, almost as an afterthought, just to fit the prehistoric setting. But here's the detail most people don't know. In the earliest scripts, Dino could talk, full sentences, clear thoughts. He wasn't a pet. He was essentially another speaking character. Test audiences reacted badly. They said it felt wrong, unnatural, and distracting. A talking dinosaur didn't feel like a companion. It felt like a gimmick. The studio listened. Dino's dialogue was removed entirely, leaving him as a silent, expressive animal. That decision transformed him into one of the most iconic and beloved pets in animation history. Sometimes the smartest choice is knowing when not to speak. Fact 9. The Flintstones almost ended primetime animation forever. This is the secret nobody tells you. When the Flintstones was first pitched, most network executives quietly assumed it would fail. At the time, animation in primetime was considered an experiment too risky to succeed, costly to produce, difficult to schedule, and almost impossible to write for week after week. Cartoons belonged on Saturday mornings, not alongside adult-focused live-action sitcoms. Behind closed doors, executives had already discussed cancellation plans before the first season even finished airing. Many expected the show to last only a few months, then quietly fade into obscurity, remembered perhaps as an ambitious mistake in television history. Then the ratings arrived, and everything changed. The numbers weren't just average, they were staggering. Families began watching together every week. Children repeated the catchphrases at school. Parents laughed at the marriage jokes and workplace antics. Merchandise flew off shelves faster than the studio could restock it, and local stations demanded reruns almost immediately, a remarkable feat for an animated program. For the first time in television history, a cartoon didn't just survive in prime time, it thrived, season after season. Without the Flintstones proving the concept, there would be no primetime cartoons, no animated sitcoms, and no adult-focused series decades later. One Stone Age family didn't just entertain audiences, they rewrote television history. So now you know, behind those cheerful caveman jokes lived stolen inspirations, hidden panic, recycled laughter, desperate rewrites, and creative risks that shaped animation forever. The Flintstones wasn't just a cartoon, it was a gamble, a risk, a blueprint that changed television in silence. And here's the real question: how many other childhood favorites are hiding stories like this? If you enjoyed uncovering these bedrock secrets, like the video, subscribe, and tell me which classic we should expose next. Until then, keep digging through the past, because the best stories are always buried in stone.